Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Hope you're all doing amazing today. In this video, we're diving into the latest updates about Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos. You don't want to miss this. So make sure to stay tuned till the end, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Kelly Ripa had always believed that the strongest bonds weren't forged during moments of triumph, but in the small, ordinary seconds that made up a life. The early morning coffees, the whispered jokes during rehearsals, the brief glance from across a studio that told her everything she needed to know without a single word. Those moments had defined her relationship with Mark Consuelos for nearly 3 decades, on screen, off screen, in love, in life. But that morning, as she stepped onto the set of Live with Kelly and Mark, the air felt different, too still, too heavy, as if the entire studio had taken a breath and forgotten how to exhale. The familiar bright lights flicked on. Producers scurried with their clipboards. Makeup brushes buzzed like soft wings against her skin. Yet under it all was the soft hum of anxiety she couldn't shake. Today was the day she wished she could delay forever. The day she would stand beside Mark and say goodbye, at least, to this chapter. They had decided weeks earlier, after long conversations and quiet evenings spent staring at each other as though looking for answers in the other's eyes. Mark had made his choice with a steady voice, but a tremor beneath every word. A choice guided by love, by reason, by the desire to protect what they had built, not just as co-hosts, but as a couple who had somehow managed to keep their marriage thriving inside the pressure cooker of television. But knowing something is right doesn't make it easy. Kelly touched the edge of the desk where countless interviews, monologues, jokes, and heartfelt confessions had taken place. She had sat beside Regis, beside Michael, beside Ryan, but sitting beside Mark had been the closest thing to coming home. Behind her, the familiar sound of footsteps approached. Light, confident, rhythmic. She didn't need to turn to know it was him. "You okay?" Mark asked softly. Kelly faced him, and the sight alone made her exhale, his warm eyes, the faint crease at the corner of his smile, the quiet steadiness that had always grounded her. "I'm trying," she said, her voice half laughter, half breaking. Mark cupped her cheek gently. "We'll do it together, like we always do." And that was the truth. Every milestone, every mess, every miracle, they had done it together. Today would be no different. Even if it was the hardest of them all, the cameras rolled. The audience burst into applause. But Kelly's heart thudded unevenly as she and Mark took their seats, exchanging a look that spoke volumes the audience couldn't hear. "Good morning, everybody," Kelly began, though her voice wavered. "We have a very special show today." A hush fell across the studio. Even the audience sensed the shift. Mark inhaled slowly, gripping the mug on his desk. "I guess we should just say it," he murmured with a wry tilt of his lips. Kelly forced a small smile. "Before we do, I want to say something." She turned slightly toward him. The teleprompter was blank. The producers had given her the option to script this moment, to rehearse it, to control it. But she had refused. This moment had to be raw, real, human. "Mark," she began, and already her eyes burned with tears, "you have been the greatest partner, not just here, not just on camera, but everywhere. Every room we walk into together becomes easier because you're in it with me." Mark swallowed hard. The audience watched in reverent silence. "When you agreed to co-host this show with me, it felt like someone had handed me the world. I got to work with my husband, my best friend, every single day. And even though we joked about killing each other before 9 a.m., these were some of the happiest days of my life." A tear rolled down her cheek. She didn't bother to wipe it away. Mark's hand found hers on the desk. Kelly took a shaky breath. "But sometimes love means letting each other grow, even when it hurts. And that's why I support you completely in your decision." There, she had said it. Mark squeezed her hand. He leaned forward, his usually animated face softened under the weight of emotion. "I have loved every second of being here with you," he said. "But I realized something. I needed more time, for myself, for the things I've put on hold, and even for us. Working together has been a dream, but it's also meant that every part of our lives became one job, one schedule, one nonstop marathon." Silent nods rippled through the audience. Mark continued gently, "I don't want us to forget what made us us before all of this." Kelly pressed her lips together as her tears spilled freely now. "So, after today, Mark will be stepping down as co-host. The words hit harder out loud than they had in every private conversation. The audience gasped softly. A few sniffles echoed from the front row. Mark chuckled sadly. I know, you're thinking the same thing I thought. Why would anyone leave this beautiful woman alone on national television? Laughter broke through the heaviness for a brief moment. Kelly shook her head, a tearful laugh escaping her. I'm not the one worried about that. I'm worried about not seeing you sitting next to me every morning. I'm worried about not sharing this weird, wonderful chaos with you. Mark brushed his thumb across her knuckles. We'll still have chaos, just not televised. The studio erupted in gentle laughter. But then the silence returned, thick with emotion. At the end of the day, Mark said softly, I just want to be the best husband I can be. And sometimes stepping back is the only way forward. Kelly exhaled, and the sound seemed to fracture something inside her. Tears streamed down her face, no longer delicate or discreet but powerful, unstoppable. This wasn't just a farewell to a co-host. It was a goodbye to the version of their life that had been theirs for the last year. A goodbye to the routine where she could turn her head and see him smiling at her, making her laugh at 8:03 a.m., reminding her she wasn't alone, not even on the hardest days. Mark stood up and extended his hand. Kelly rose with him. Before she could say a word, he enveloped her in an embrace so warm, so familiar, so full of history that the audience fell utterly silent. She buried her face in his shoulder, holding on as though letting go would make the moment real. I love you, she whispered, voice trembling. I love you more, he murmured, kissing her temple. This isn't an ending, Kel. It's just the next chapter. She pulled back enough to look at him. His eyes glistened too. You promise you won't regret this, she asked. He smiled gently. Not if you promise you'll let me make you breakfast every morning now. She laughed through her tears. Deal. Mark turned to the audience. Thank you for welcoming me into your homes. Thank you for loving us. And thank you for understanding. Kelly stepped beside him, sliding her arm around his waist. And don't worry, I'll still drag him on the show whenever I need someone good-looking to stand next to me. The crowd roared with applause. But even as laughter filled the studio, Kelly felt the ache settle deeper. This moment, this goodbye, would live in her heart forever. After the show ended, after the final applause faded and the camera stopped rolling, the studio doors closed behind them. The world outside buzzed with media alerts and headlines, but inside, it was just the two of them again. Kelly stood alone on the empty stage, fingertips resting on the desk one last time. Mark approached quietly. You ready? She nodded, though her voice cracked. Yeah, but can we stay a second? He walked beside her, taking her hand. They stood there in the gentle glow of the remaining lights. No audience, no producers, no expectations. Just two people who had built a life together, made mistakes together, dreamed together, and navigated the impossible together. Kelly leaned her head on his shoulder. Thank you for doing this with me. Mark kissed the top of her head. Thank you for letting me. And as they walked off the set hand in hand, Kelly didn't feel the heaviness anymore. Instead, she felt something new. A beginning disguised as an ending. A goodbye wrapped in love. A future waiting quietly on the other side of the studio doors. And she knew, without a doubt, that wherever the next chapter took them, they would walk into it together.